bore you and be quite quick. This is a brief overview of what I'm going to go through. So briefly touching on actually what RWA tokenization is, what DeFi is, how they work together, so what is the opportunity there, and finally a very brief introduction about Real. But before getting into that, I want to understand a bit from you how much you're familiar with this topic. So by raise of hand, how much do you know about RWA tokenization? And today doesn't count. So did you know about tokenization yesterday? Good. How many of you would be able to explain it? Good. Not bad, not bad. And what about DeFi? Have you ever heard about DeFi? Solid, solid. Okay, okay. So we can move on. I'll not be that complex. So the talk is for everyone. Don't worry. So first, real world assets or RWA. What does it mean? What tokenization does mean? It's as simple as that. It's basically taking physical assets or not, like a house, like watches, like a bottle of wine or a bar of gold, and bring it to the blockchain. So basically they become tokens that are easily manageable, tradable, and I'll get to the implication of what that means in a bit. Like this is an example. I wanted to give you an example. Unfortunately, it's not that readable. But like we have a protocol deployed on Real, which is called Tangible. That is a marketplace for real-world assets. So basically, you can trade assets like real estate. It's mainly for real estate. Like this is an example how the tokenization flow happen. On the top, there is like the legal side of it. It's not the context of this talk. But to give you an example, what actually Tangible does is buying physical real estate. And these houses are actually rented out to people. So there are tenants that live in these houses. And you can go to the Tangible application and buy a part or the full house. And basically, if you hold the token in your wallet, you get the right to receive the income that comes from the tenants. So like that's I think, a cool example of how that actually happens in practice. Moving on, I wanted to give you a brief introduction of what actually DeFi means compared to TradFi. TradFi stands for traditional finance, and it's basically the system that we use every day. So like banks, cards, and the financial system as we know it today. While DeFi is basically the effort of creating the same financial application with some innovation in a decentralized way, and that happens on the blockchain. You can read through the brief description, or I think the meme makes it a better picture of it. Anyway, like some unique benefits of DeFi, like that in my opinion are important for RWAs, are like features that, in this case, like for RWA, are very important, like global access, like DeFi. You can access DeFi application 24/7, every day, and from anywhere in the world. You don't need to be in a specific country. You can access it really from any country. I think that's very important. Like we are used, even if, like in Italy or in the US, we complain about financial system. It's not that bad. But think about underdeveloped countries in South America or in Africa or in Asia. Like those countries might not even have a financial system, and DeFi is actually a big game changer also for those economies. The second and third go together because the thing that as we are building on the blockchain in a decentralized way, we cut off middlemen, and how we cut off them by programmable smart contracts. So DeFi application run on top of smart contracts. Smart contracts is basically the program. So like when you go to a website like Amazon, there is a system behind it. If you go to a DeFi application, there is another system behind it, and that goes through smart contract. The cool thing is that these smart contracts basically set the rules of what will happen in the application, and that's very clear. Like there's a set of rules defined, preset, so you don't have to trust like a middleman or a bank, or any other party to do what you want to do because it's programmed. And final thing, there is some censorship resistance. I say some because before the idea of DeFi was to fuck the governments and we do whatever we want, but we are at a point where there are developed products, developed companies, so they still have to adhere to some regulation, especially in the US. But at the end of the day, you have much more freedom to do what you want to do with your money in DeFi rather than TradFi. This is a comparison, like by some features. You can take a picture if you want. I'm not gonna go in detail through all of this, but yeah, just a quick overview. Like in DeFi, you have more control over your assets. Like you have to manage your asset. It comes also with a bit of risk, but it's up to you. If you prefer to have more freedom rather than having the banks managing money for you. Intermediaries, we already covered that. For transparency, yeah, as everything happens on the blockchain, you can see actually where your funds go. You can check the code of smart contracts. So you can check, if you're a developer, you can understand what is happening. And that's really cool compared to, to the TradFi system where that you don't know what is actually happening. So that's a cool one. Yeah, anybody can access it from anywhere. Speed and cost is an interesting one because I put sometimes great, sometimes bad for both of them because I don't want to tell you that DeFi is the best thing in the world. We still have work to do because like I want to give you an example of, let's say you want to send some US dollars from the United States to Japan. Through the traditional finance system, that's probably going to take days and the fees are pretty high. Compared to DeFi, where you can send basically stable coins in seconds, and the chip is basically now on every blockchain in cents. So that's a great win. But let's go with another example, which is, for instance, with payments. Let's say you go to a restaurant. With TradFi, you pay with your card, or with Apple Pay with your phone. That's instant. That's amazing. At the moment, we are still not there with like blockchain infrastructure because, like even if there are cards that top up from your wallet, but even if you pay with that, the infrastructure is just not there to support the amount of transaction that like Visa or MasterCard do. So, and even if we get there, at the moment, there are some blockchain congestion. Sometimes, do the transaction, but it gets rejected. I mean, it's not amazing if you're at a restaurant and say, wait a moment, the blockchain is not working. So, this is to say we have still some work to do. And finally, another important point about security / trust, because as I told you, like the security in DeFi comes from smart contracts. In TradFi, it comes from trusting a centralized entity, which at the moment, I mean, you still have to choose because smart contracts are hackable. There are hacks and money gets stolen at this time. I believe that we are making great progress in that, and we'll get at some point that all DeFi apps are completely safe. But at the moment, like you have to be aware of that. But in my opinion, security also means trust in this context because you trust in TradFi your bank to act, in a good way on your behalf. While in DeFi, when we get to a point where smart contracts are really safe, I mean, do you prefer to trust, a centralized entity to do something with your money, or do you trust, like machines to do what they say they're going to do? That's your choice. So finally, I think this is the most important part. So actually, why real-world assets and DeFi are a perfect match for each other. The first one is that what DeFi does for RWAs is that DeFi creates a new market for these assets. Like think about real estate. You can only sell it, in the local market with very few people that usually can access it or are in the right place at the right time to buy it. What about bringing these assets to the blockchain? It creates an entire new world of opportunity. On one side, because we have, it's permissionless, anybody can access from anywhere in the world, but also because of fractionalization. So let's say you want to have some exposure to real estate. So you want to, you're managing your investment portfolio, you want to have some real estate exposure. You don't have to buy a full house, but you can buy, a fraction of the token. So like 10%, 20%, so that like in the case of tangible, you will get, the related share of the rental income. And again, it creates new opportunity, new liquidity, and in the end, what markets are about is liquidity. So basically, these assets that are very illiquid, they become very liquid on the blockchain. The second point is that, I mean, for what I've told you before, it's very clear that DeFi is just a much better trading infrastructure for RWAs. And as I told you, because, I mean, the thing that there are no middlemen, it basically brings costs down. And because you're on the blockchain, the settlement So the speed of the asset become very high. So this is, a house or like trading a watch is a very slow thing to do. It's actually become fast in DeFi. And the final point, I think it's an interesting one that is, I think, a lot of time overlooked because we always try to sell what DeFi does for the rest of the world, but we also should look things the other way around. So what actually RWA do for DeFi? Like I can tell you, I've been working in this industry for like more than 3 years now, and we have been mostly known for speculation, memes, and I mean I get if you try to explain to some family members what Bitcoin is, they'll say it's a scam or whatever. At the end of the day, I think that bringing RWA, so assets that creates value in the real world, to DeFi brings money, brings capital, but most importantly, it brings legitimacy. It brings the fact that we can say, we can show to everyone that the system works, is better, so we can actually go to mass adoption. This is an example, some charts of what it looks now. So RWAs on DeFi, you cannot read it, but the first one, basically, they both show the total value of real-world assets in DeFi. The first one excludes stablecoin, the second one includes stablecoin. In the first one, we are about in 15 billions range. The second one is 200 billion range. Like, I have the two charts because some people argue that stablecoins are not RWAs. In my opinion, they are a lot RWAs because at the end, they are backed by US treasuries and cash. And that's an asset that usually will not be on the blockchain. And I think the second chart, some people say, it's not great because we only have stable coins. I think we have not been here for a lot of years, and stable coins are actually one of the few products that really work, and you can tell from this chart. So what's the opportunity there? I mean, on the left, you can see that, there are some research that say, we're going to get to 10, 15 trillion of market of tokenization by 2030. I would say take these numbers with a grain of salt. What is most important here in this case is the meme, because like in my opinion, like RWAs and DeFi work so great together that RWAs can be the Trojan horse into the traditional finance system. So if we get this right, we can basically bring DeFi to mass adoption, to the system where otherwise we will not have DeFi, and I think that's an amazing opportunity that is much more important than getting whatever number of trillions on DeFi. But I mean, what's missing to go there? I will start here saying that there are two kind of audiences that are at the moment that could be interested in RWAs in DeFi. I'll start from the middle one, so on-chain capital. Here we are talking about like funds, asset manager, treasuries, DAOs, so foundations that are blockchain native. They started on the blockchain and they raised capital on the blockchain. So they did not come from off-chain, they are already on-chain. I think that these entities that manage billions, they are actually the only one at the moment incentivized to have RWAs in their strategy. The reason is that like DeFi users, which is the second category, they are used to make life-changing money in DeFi. And for them, 5 or 10% yield, yearly yield on RWAs, it's just not enough. It's not attractive to them, and that's actually a problem. And in my opinion, what will happen there is that at the point there will be a convergence between TradFi yields coming into DeFi and DeFi yields actually lowering as more capital, more people, and more security comes into the space. So you can see, in the other meme, you can see that there is a concept of risk-adjusted return. That is, in TradFi, you have to not just provide returns. You have to provide that in a very safe way. In DeFi, there is not such a concept. So that's the average DeFi user. On the other side, we have off-chain capital. So institutional investors, people, with a lot of money, or average people that don't manage their money on DeFi. And what do we need to bring these people on-chain? As boring as it is just compliance, regulation, security standards, because you will not get funds that manage, hundreds of billions of money on DeFi if they are not sure that, there are regulations that cover in case of fuck-ups. And like, in my opinion, that's not probably going to happen before 5 years, maybe a bit more. And hopefully when we have regulation, it comes also with good rules. So what do? We wait? No. In the meantime, we keep building. So that's why we created Real, which basically brings the best of both worlds together. Because as said, Real is a layer 2 blockchain, so built in the Ethereum ecosystem. And the goal is basically to bring off-chain yields, off-chain real-world assets to the chain and merge it with something that DeFi users like a lot. So, all these applications where you can lend a token and borrow some other, or you can, there are a lot of yield games where you can compose basically your asset. And of course, leverage, because DeFi users love to leverage. And I mean, at the end, I think it's an interesting application because RWA yields at the moment are boring for DeFi users. They become interesting on Real because they are actually plugged into an interesting source of ecosystem. So finally, at the end, what we are trying to build is a sustainable ecosystem because real-world assets can mean real yield. It's a bit more technical. We are going step by step. So at the end, like the governance token of the real ecosystem, which is RWA, is the first L2 token that actually captures the value of the chain and give it to its holder. So basically, 100% of the chain profit, which is in a blockchain transaction fee, they are completely returned to users. And all the protocol, these are some protocol deployed on the chain. They all share a revenue, a part of their revenue with RWA holders. And all these fees are paid in Ethereum, which is, I mean, a good currency to pay people within blockchain. Instead, some newly launched token or meme coins that go to zero in a bit. So at the end, what we are trying to build is a sustainable ecosystem. We are trying to get away from the narrative of building stuff that is made to make people rich quick. We are trying to build for the long term, and I'm sure we will get there. Thank you. If you want to get in touch, that's my code.